RPN is not responsible for the views, actions, statements, or opinions of its guests, advertisers, or even its viewers. The information contained in this program is not to be construed as medical or legal advice. An appearance on this show is not necessarily an endorsement, and as always, we encourage you to do your own research. Enjoy the show. Good afternoon, Patriots. And welcome to another edition of Occam's Razor. As always, I'm your host, RP. And joining me live in the studio, my good friend and co-host, M3 Thods. It's been quite a day already. Bunch of stuff going on. Amy Coney Barrett hearings. I heard there was an anonymous post on a message board online with some telephone calls. We'll probably talk about those. And there's been some newly declassified spreadsheets that the FBI was using to collaborate and collude with the mainstream media. It doesn't end there. The news continues. We're going to be breaking it down for you. Having a nice, casual, comfy conversation. A reasonable conversation, you might say. I don't know if Craig Mason's Reasonable Conversation channel is here, but big thank you to the mods for keeping the chat comfy. Thank you to everybody who's been here hanging out. We're going to be right back after a very brief word from our sponsor. With the elections only weeks away, you need to be prepared for the worst. Civil unrest is getting so ugly in spots, it could bring the entire system to its knees. And food shortages are a definite possibility, especially since many are predicting a second wave of the beer bug just around the corner. Grocery stores and food manufacturers are already preparing themselves for a nationwide panic. Will you be ready if that happens? Well, you can't wait until it's too late. I urge you to visit preparewithredpill78.com and build your emergency food supply today. The preparedness experts at My Patriot Supply are the only folks I trust, and you can too. And right now you can save $100 on a full 4-week food supply of their delicious, nutritious meals that give you a life-saving 2,000 calories a day. My Patriot Supply is here to help you prepare for the worst, and saving $100 off their life-saving 4-week supply of food is too good a deal to pass up. The next wave of CV-19 could be worse than the first, or the response of people could be worse than the disease itself. Go to preparewithredpill78.com and get ready now. That's preparewithredpill78.com. You'll kick yourself if you don't, and remember, when you support my sponsors, you support this channel. Welcome back, friends and patriots. Methods, how are you today, buddy?
Man, I'm doing good. Just been enjoying riding the chaos wave that's been going on with all the info dropping. Man, I'm loving it. How about you?
I'm good. I just realized that my green screen was revealing the true nature of my location, so I had to put it, move it over. Yeah, I'm doing good, man. You know, it's been kind of a crazy morning. You know, it's in keeping with the times. Things continue to heat up. I think as we get closer to the election, we're going to continue to see drop after drop of useful and helpful information, things that expose the cabal. There's been some stuff that was released earlier. I found some stuff on 8kun. And I was given some stuff, but the nature of it is pretty explosive, and there's more stuff that's going to come out. There's also some new information that I've heard that Anna Kate is talking about as well with regard to Fast and Furious. But I think the biggest thing is the hearing for Amy Coney Barrett. I mean, it seems to be gripping the news cycle. I haven't had a chance to watch much of the hearings, but I know that you have because I've seen quite a few tweets that you put out. What I did see, Amy Coney Barrett appears to be a very reasonable woman. I saw a couple of times that people tried to trip her up. Dick Durbin tried to throw her a curveball, and she was like, whoa, hold on. She caught it and threw it right back at him.
Right. She's been doing that the entire time. Today is a lot better than it was yesterday. I wish I had that time back, but it is what it is. But yeah, she's been brilliant. She makes me very humble when it comes to thinking out stuff and saying things logically, because she's taken everything apart that the Democrats have had to say to spin it. She just goes back and says, no, I don't have an opinion on these things because it's not a case in front of me. And then they try to like spin her into the situation of, did Trump or anybody, did you talk about any cases that are coming up with them? And that's why you've been nominated. She absolutely shut that down real quick. And just watching how she handles things, and the biggest takeaway to me was that she believes in the Constitution as it was written, instead of the personal opinion of what it should mean as far as like the political climate now. And if she continues to stay on this course of sticking to that mindset with the Democrats during all this, they're going to come out of this looking as bad as they have so far today. Even Dianne Feinstein, I put a tweet pointing this out. She had asked some questions that was trying to trip up Amy, and Amy gave a similar response of, I'm not going to touch on these things because it wouldn't be smart, or it wouldn't be professional of me to do so, especially since I'm not confirmed yet and they aren't my cases and stuff. And Dianne looks down to read her rebuttal statement about how, well, it's very unfortunate that you are not going to be answering our questions today. And she's stumbling while trying to read her page. It's like, how did you know that she wouldn't answer to where you already had a transcript ready to run with it to talk about it? Yeah, I mean, she's coming out on top, and I am now more of a fan of her than I was just from Trump's endorsement.
The what you just said there is exactly how every judicial nominee should behave. They should simply go based on the Constitution. And if they have their own opinions on, particular things, how things are supposed to go, I mean, that's for their private life. It's the interpretation of the Constitution and the application of it in terms of the law. And what I've seen has really demonstrated that the Democrats have completely abandoned that idea, that everything that they're doing is based upon their own beliefs and the way that they believe the Constitution should be interpreted and applied or changed and completely scrapped and something new brought in. So yeah, I've been very, very impressed with her as well, the segments that I did see. And yeah, I mean, I've had a couple people come to me and say that maybe they were worried about it, that they thought that, well, I mean, is it fair? Is it fair that President Trump is going to have this conservative edge on the court? And the point is that it doesn't matter what her politics are in real life. What matters is how she behaves as a judge. And when you look at her record as a judge, she's not a judicial activist. But when you look at any of the nominees that a Democrat might put in there, they are all judicial activists, and they're all working to subvert the Constitution, not to maintain its application. So that's a huge, huge thing to point out there.
100%. And I also had put out this clip, and I'm not just trying to hat tip my account. I'm just saying if people want to see it, go over to Twitter. But Mike Lee basically pointed that out. The senator from Utah. He was calling out how the left is making this all political. Everything that ends up in front of the court to be voted on has been turned political, and they're using it to basically gaslight everybody and put panic and fear into their base, and then turning around and using it to campaign and get fundraising off of. And he called all that out, and he said, are we creating a monster? Maybe we should be reminding ourselves of this. So he called out how they've turned this into political when that's supposed to be the least political, a part of our entire apparatus as a country is the Supreme Court. It should be law, like they said in the chat, law 101, follow the law, look at the Constitution and interpret it through the law, not through the lens of left or right. And exactly I'm so glad Mike Lee pointed that out, because that's the biggest problem. The biggest takeaway that anybody needs to get from this, we know they already said, even Lindsey Graham admitted he knows where all the votes are going to go. We pretty much know where this is playing. So what are we having here? Well, we're having a display that is kind of showing the left for what they are, and all their stock photos from wallets being blown up to have behind them to try to make it look like this is all about healthcare and all these things like that, with stories I don't even know if are true or not. But they are also using this for their campaigns themselves. And I wasn't happy with Lindsey Graham during his opening statement or his opening section, because he basically used it to then campaign himself, and he kept referring to his home state and trying to guise it under, well, this is what the Democrats are trying to do. Everybody, this is what they're doing. They're all campaigning right now. When you already know the votes, get the votes done and then get back to something else that could be productive for this country, because we still have a country that's still running regardless of an election in 3 weeks.
Every time I've heard Lindsey Graham open his mouth over the last couple of weeks, it's been, the Democrats are kicking my butt. I need to raise money. Please vote for Lindsey Graham. It's like every single time he talks, it's a campaign ad. And I mean, I guess you can't blame him, because of course he's interested in self-preservation, but correctly stated, in the setting that we're at right now in this judicial hearing, absolutely has no place, But, I mean, these people are career politicians. They know that every single thing that they say is going to be clipped and used as a soundbite. And, of course, he's probably going to be using that for a couple of last-minute campaign ads. I just want to make a point about Mike Lee. Probably one of the smartest guys in Congress. Every time I've seen him speak, he goes straight from memory. He doesn't have a prepared statement, like Patrick Leahy, he's like looking at his paper like this. He's like, and I'm sorry, but Pat, get a mic, okay? I can't even listen to you when you give your opening statements or when you're trying to challenge the nominees, because you blow out my speakers because of the cheap nature of your laptop that you're using to zoom in to these judicial hearings. So, I don't know. If anybody out there is watching and is a fan of Patrick Leahy, I don't think they're watching the show, but if you just happen to catch it later, go ahead and send Pat a mic, or if his campaign manager happens to be watching, shell out a couple $100, go on Amazon, get him a good USB mic, and then set him up, because it'll do all of us a big favor. Because, I don't ever care to hear what he has to say, but you have to. I mean, when you're listening to these things, you have to know what the enemy is thinking, what they're saying, how they're going to be phrasing things, but also, you're right. Each single one of them, every Democrat has like 4 poster board sized images, like printed out from LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever, like this is Jimmy Monroe, he's got MS, and if President Trump gets rid of the Affordable Care Act, then he's not going to have health care. And it's all a bunch of scare tactics, The stuff about choice really bothers me too, because it completely invalidates the incoming life of a brand new baby child that could probably, in all accounts, deliver some amazing results to this world, helping make the world better. And it looks like my chat's frozen. That's really weird. Hold on, let me try to stop that. But yeah, I think it's in poor taste, and the stuff that they have to say is pretty predictable. Now, again, Amy Coney Barrett, she does not seem political at all in terms of her judicial decision making. I think she's going to make an excellent Supreme Court justice, even though technically President Trump is going to have a conservative lead on the court. I do believe that she's going to vote with the Constitution and that strict interpretation of it. And I think that what people are used to is watching these judges vote based upon party lines. Certainly every time that a Democrat is appointed to the Supreme Court, that's exactly what we've had. We have people like RBG, they get out in there and they campaign. They have documentaries made about them. I don't see an incredible, or notorious ACB documentary coming down the pipe.
Right, unless a good patriot makes it. But speaking of Mike Lee and his memory, that moment during it, I don't know if you caught it, Red Pill, of when I can't remember who asked, maybe the chat can let me know. They were asking ACB, to show her notes that she had on the table, to show what she was using as far as, to respond to the questions and whatnot. And she held up a blank notepad that was handed to her from the Senate committee, like for her to have his notes, and it was blank a couple hours into it. and she was just responding from memory. So for anybody, because I have seen people out there questioning and worried, like you said, about ACB, is she the right fit, all that stuff. I give yourself the time to watch her responses to questions, even the Democrats. And I was impressed. If she takes exactly what I've seen today and what I have seen about her to the Supreme Court, then I'm all for this.
Well,
I mean, go ahead.
I'm just gonna say on that note, why don't we watch a? Ooh, let me fix that. That's. But yeah, let's watch a little segment of her, because you've got a clip right here that you pulled out, and you said could have ended the hearing right here. Let's listen.
I interpret the Constitution as a law, that I interpret its text as text, and I understand it to have the meaning that it had at the time people ratified it. Okay. So that meaning doesn't change over time, and it's not up to me to update it or infuse my own policy views into it.
So in other words, you're bound by the people who wrote it at the time they wrote it. That keeps you from substituting your judgment for theirs. Is that correct?
Yeah.
All right.
I interpret the Constitution
You can't have a much better answer than that. And the fact that she isn't going from canned responses, that she's answering just off the top of her head, I mean, that shows her honesty and I think her integrity. Because if it was, a different nominee, somebody who had to prepare and, use some wordsmithing to talk around things about how they were going to change something or how they're interpreting the Constitution, then I would be really worried. But I mean, the Constitution is a document. It was written the way that it was, and that is the framework for the structure of our country. And if Congress adds new amendments to it, then that creates additional additional options for it. But I think that the way that it's written is the way that it's supposed to be interpreted, and that is the law. And as long as judges go by that, then that's great. That's perfect.
Yeah, and that's how it needs to be. Until the whole point of Trump, the argument that Trump has been able, to put 3 on the Supreme Court or in the process of the 3rd, and that not being as balanced enough. Well, that's the beauty of voting. Vote. Okay, if Hillary had won, then it would have been the exact opposite, and RBG would have stepped down. She had already said that she wished that Hillary had won because she would have stepped down then. She stayed and tried to hold on for dear life, plugged into whatever charger that was keeping her alive to try to get to this point. And I know that we've had plenty of conversations on why this is playing out right before the election, but it is how it played out. If people don't like it, vote differently then. Because it's the president that gets to nominate, and we have the Senate. If we didn't have the Senate, we wouldn't be having this conversation now about ACB, right?
Yeah, exactly. Now, oh shoot, I forgot what I was going to say. I totally lost it. But we do have some new breaking information that has dropped in regards to Durham's investigation. And I think that this is really important because it underscores and illuminates one of the key elements that was used by the FBI and the mainstream media to try to pin this Russia collusion narrative upon President Trump. This is a 94-page declassified FBI spreadsheet. It was cited by I.G. Horowitz in his report, but it's not been made public until now. It was released to Senate investigators previously. But it's basically, it's a spreadsheet of mainstream media sources and the FBI's communications with them. And it shows us exactly how they used this circular reporting. So they had something that they wanted to prove as true, even though it was fake. They would take that tidbit, give it to the media, say David Korn or David Ignatius, or was it Michael Korn? David Ignatius, those guys, and they would give it off to them, and then they would say, sources say, put it in their article, and then the FBI would cite that article and then use it when they went to the FISA court and say, here is the evidence, even though they themselves fabricated the evidence. It's a pretty shocking thing to do, and not something that I ever thought we would be seeing in this country until President Trump was elected.
Right. I mean, what was one of the main things that the FBI, Comey, McCabe, all of them were trying to justify on having the investigations, the Russia collusion stuff, and even leading up into the Mueller investigation, was that they have to follow their leads. They were doing their job. Well, now we're getting this spreadsheet that's showing how much that was actually used, and they wouldn't even take it out of the information jackets that they had, I guess, for the FISA courts and stuff. When it ended up being debunked, they didn't even take it out. They left it in there to still be used. And we're going to talk in just a few about the McCabe text messages and stuff, because this all plays into it. They were, like he said, circular reporting, to where they needed something out there. They get the media to talk about it enough, and then it becomes curious. And then the FBI has a justification to then have that legal doorway opened to then investigate. It's the same kind of thing we've seen from the media red pill recently when it comes to the attacks on the president, when they were talking about just various different accusations that they would bring up at press conferences to the president. They would say reports are saying this, and then Trump or McEnany would say, well, that's not true. I have to look into it. I mean, all that stuff. And they're like, well, what if this is true? Then they create a framework to then talk in that world as if it exists, hoping that the American people don't pay attention enough to where they then just believe it because of the reporting itself. And then they, so that the problem is, though, is that they've taken it as far as abusing their power and hijacking and holding this country hostage for 4 years over these things, and spending millions of dollars to investigate stuff that we're looking now at the origins of how it became even a topic of discussion. And that's why the media is probably one of the, if not the biggest enemy in all of this. Because if the public if some of the public believes it, or they choose to ignore the truth, then the media gets away with it. But these kind of things coming out, like we've been saying, they're dropping documents to lay the framework on why they have to act on it, as far as like actual justice occurring.
Yeah, so they have the statement by primary subsource, who was a Russian agent. They know it's a lie. They know that it's completely unfounded. But if they can insert it into their media assets, then they can use it to point to the FISA court and say, look, this has been reported by multiple sources. We've got the primary subsource saying it, and then we have another source reporting it to the mainstream media, not saying to the FISA court that those guys are one and the same. And it allows them to do some really, really nasty things. But yeah, total abuse of power. And obviously highly illegal, I would think. I mean, not only the fraud on the FISA court, but I mean, there has to be some type of law about attempting to frame a sitting U.S. president for a crime he didn't commit, I would imagine. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, and I don't know if anybody in the chat is a lawyer, but if you are, I am very interested to know what laws potentially could have been broken here, because it just seems so patently unfair. Like, I don't understand how they allowed it to get this far. I mean, clearly they did not want President Trump to take office, and they needed to get him out as soon as possible. I actually do have a theory, and it kind of leads into one of the next things that we were going to talk about.
Well, hold on to that. Yeah. But let me answer this idea. Once Please. Again, I'm not a law theory either. Yeah. But I just been watching all this stuff play out, and then what has Barr said? What is the Justice Department been saying? Proving these things, right? Like, if you can prove that they were if they knowingly knew that this information was false and they put it out anyways, it's the same kind of thing like how IG Horowitz said that he couldn't prove whether or not the intent of these people. So you have intent, and then you have knowingly. And if they have those documents, yes, to me, it's all should be crimes, but we're talking about fighting a judicial system that needs the sauce. If anything, they want sauce more than we do when it comes to things. So if they can knowingly prove, if they've got the email, communications of them planning these things out, for example, or recordings or video of them planning these things out and knowingly did that, then yes, I do believe they can be held accountable. And at the very least, Trump can then sue them into oblivion and then own them. And he could turn the CNN building in Atlanta to another Trump Tower.
Oh, God, how glorious would that be?
Right.
Watching the CNN sign get ripped down and just immediately replaced by a solid gold Trump Tower sign.
Right.
That'd be so
It'd be
great.
a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, back to the idea of why they needed to get President Trump out of office. Okay, so thinking about the disclosures that were made over the weekend, the idea that bin Laden was being held in Iran by the Iranian government with the knowledge of the United States government, first under the Bush administration and then inherited by the Obama administration, Hillary Clinton, Leon Panetta, and then John Brennan. It all goes back to September in 2001, I think, because that being the largest scale attack on U.S. soil and bin Laden being fingered as the guy, okay, behind the whole thing, and then having the knowledge that the United States hid him, said, no, we don't want him. We want to keep him under wraps because that way it's better for us because we can have endless wars. We can spy on our people. We can defraud nations. We can traffic people. We can traffic in drugs. All of these things allowed cover for them to continue to do this. So they had to keep him hidden. Okay, and if anybody ever found out, then that would blow the lid off the whole thing. President Trump was there in New York in 2001. He witnessed the whole thing. He always wanted to get to the bottom of it. The entire time wanted to get to the bottom of it. And he has said to us that he is going to help us get to the bottom of it. Obviously, he's pointed at Saudi Arabia before. Clearly, there was action with them. I mean, that's where the family was from. That's where many of the people that were involved were from, or that were publicly named as being involved. And when it came time to do this operation in 2010 to move him from Iran to Pakistan, that Hillary Clinton organized that. And then we have the pullout by Iran. They take him back from Pakistan because they decide they don't want him to get taken out. And then the double gets taken out. So now they're holding that over the head of the Obama administration. And then the Obama administration enters into all of this appeasement with Iran. And they're forced to, give all of these concessions. And that's on top of all, like, the illegal weapons trafficking that they're doing. What happened in Benghazi. There's a whole bunch of different elements to this. But if it becomes known that that one guy is hanging out in Iran with the knowledge of our government, and we're not doing anything about it, then that sends a really bad message to the American people. So President Trump starts running for office. They say, whoa, this is the guy who could screw it all up for us. This is the guy who could stop our plans dead in our tracks. It would destroy our legacies. It would mean the American people would never trust us ever again. We couldn't get away with whatever we want. We have to do everything in our power to stop him. Now, General Flynn, working in the Obama administration, would have full knowledge about all of this stuff. And they know that Flynn is going into the Trump administration. So they say, first, we got to F Flynn. Then we can get Trump. So they go ahead and they try to do that. And then, as a result of, the plot to take him down, they say, oh, you know what? We can use the Russia collusion scam. It'll be great for Hillary Clinton. It'll give us an excuse to go after him. And Hillary will do all the work. So perhaps there's some plausible deniability, and we can say hands off, it was Hillary, if it comes down to that. And, plus, we know that if it works, she's going to get elected, he will never get elected, and we won't even have to worry about it. So that's what they really hung their hat on. They planned it. But I was looking at the drops here, and there is 80 drops that mention Iran. All right, so if we go back to the very first drop that mentions Iran, let's see. And that is drop number 39, and it asks what deal was done with Iran under Barack Obama. Why was the deal sealed under a top secret classification? Why wasn't Congress notified? Okay, that's just a part of it. And then in 48, U.S. with Iran, and who is the enemy. And then number 50, how did Iran obtain uranium? Why did BO send billions in cash and wire to Iran? How many planes carried the cash into Iran? Did it all land in Iran? Continuing on, why did BO send billions to Iran? Why wasn't Congress notified? Continually asking, why was this classified under state secrets? It was the deal. It was the Iran deal. So if it was just the Iran deal, they could have said, hey, this is the deal we had to make. But instead, they classified it under state secrets because it really was about Osama, which was this is the golden egg. Okay, Iran is holding this golden egg. It's holding it over the head of Barack Obama. And if they drop it, he's going to get egg all over his head. But it's not just him. It's going to be Hillary. It's going to be Brennan. It's going to be, Hayden. It's going to be Panetta. It's going to be George W. Bush. It's going to be so many people. And then the American people are going to be up in arms. And they're going to be, as angry as they ever possibly could be. So I think that from the beginning, this was really about Iran. POTUS has been hyper-focused on Iran. Mike Flynn, I put this in my video yesterday, he made a statement about Iran very shortly after after President Trump won the election, and then very quickly they had him removed shortly thereafter. What do you think, Methods?
Well, first off, when you lay it out like that, it makes me really think back about all the posts that we've seen, especially from our favorite since the beginning. And I see some people in the chat saying this as well. You can kind of like cat's cradle a lot of different situations that have been discussed, and they all influence each other. Just like how you're talking, how we can go all the way back to that date in September 2001. Like you could see how this could all be planned out. You have that attack happen. You get justification, like you said, for the actions going on in the Middle East. You get the American people to focus on it as the form of revenge, so they can basically have a blank check on doing all these things while they need to spy on the American people, so they can have, they got so much out of that, you have to question it like already. And that's why many have. But then you have the boogeyman that we're talking about here. You have the boogeyman out there. They're saying that they're hiding weapons of mass destruction in caves. We need to go get these people. They're making movies about it. Team America World Police, all that stuff. So
it's my favorite movie. I love it.
Right, it's the best reference when it comes to movies about them. But and then you have to have a situation where you can make sure that your next installed president, after the one that's allowed this to go on. I see people talking in the chat about George W. Bush. He would have known all this, but to me, he's kind of like the cuck in the corner of his father, and he had to play his roles and do all that stuff. I'm not giving him a pass, but
I think Cheney had more power than George W. Bush.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you have to think about what Cheney's big thing would definitely be profitable for him to get into the Middle East and do this stuff.
Securing contracts, yeah.
Exactly. So you've got this boogeyman out there that you need to just put on this big display to kill, because I know a lot of people were saying around that time that they voted for Obama in the first term, and then he didn't come through. He just paid lip service and read his teleprompters, and then like they didn't the second time, or they really caught on about that, or they just didn't vote at all. They needed that trophy killing to help make, in their eyes, to get Obama in for the second term. Now, whether they just cheated anyways during then to make sure he did, that's neither here nor there, because that's just the past at this point. But you've got a situation now that other countries that were involved would know about it. And then think about it. They sent pallets of cash. They sent planes full of paper. Like, why not have the paper trail for the records in the future, unless it was for nefarious purposes? So that's why, I bring this back all to say, when you really step back and look at all this stuff, they all intertwine in such a way that it makes sense. And I'm sure there's still some pieces that we haven't exactly figured out, just to kind of give an even bigger picture and make it more easily digestible for the public.
Yeah.
Because we have to explain this correctly. So there's got to be enough there for them to be undeniable. And I think that's what we're getting here. I think it was perfect to have this ACB hearing going on. All the focus is there. The media has to be there. The Democrats are there. They're using it to campaign off of. And then just having this death blossom of information drop during this, at setting the stage. And then what did the president just say in his last rally? He said, let's get through the election, and then we'll take care of these people.
Yeah. Hold on. I actually have that clip I wanted to play. This is another good one from Methods. Okay, here you go, guys. Listen.
4 years they've been trying to get us out, but we'll take care of it all after the election. We caught them cold. We caught them cold. Bad people, crooked Hillary. And by the way, Obama and Biden knew everything that was happening, okay, just in case you had any question. We'll take care of it after the election. Joe Biden and the Democrat Socialists, but that gives you another reason to go out and vote. We got to get in. Because we don't, they'll just sweep it under the rug.
Which is exactly what they've done the entire time, just swept it under the rug. Now, the full content of the phone call between Brian Ettinger, Kurt Weldon, and Alan Perot has been released. And I'm going to drop the link to that, my tweet that I put out with those links, so you guys can listen to those yourselves. But I mean, it states unequivocally that the U.S. government knew where he was, and they didn't want to get him because it was better to keep him under the radar, because they got so many benefits from keeping him hidden. I mean, how long have we been at war, dude? Like over 20 years, like since so almost 20 years, like 19 years now. Okay, it's very close to being 20 years in the Middle East. And they would love for that to continue for just, all of time, because that guarantees all of these contracts for missiles, bombs, munitions, gear, helicopters, different types of airplanes, surveillance equipment, everything that they could possibly want. Plus, they get to pillage the land of wherever it is they go. They get all the oil. They get contracts for American companies to go in there and try to do things like construction contracts. Remember, I'm sure we've talked about this before, like $160 hammers, just crazy stuff. And they're fleecing the American people the entire time. Charging the American government, which then comes out of our pockets. All right, debt that we're never going to pay back. The only way it's going to happen is if President Trump truthfully changes us to a new monetary system. But each of these illegal acts, I think they all are part of this greater plan to make sure that they maintain power. And, think about the global response to the Iran deal. Like they wanted Iran to join the global community. And I think that it was definitely because they wanted to maintain control, but all of these various international companies would then also get to enter Iran and kind of do the same thing that they've already done in a bunch of other places. I mean, you think about like Venezuela. Before Venezuela became a socialist country, there was a bunch of American oil companies down there, American banks too, and they were making all kinds of money. And then they got kicked out, and the country, appropriated all of the infrastructure, and they nationalized it. Now, that's a lot of money that was lost. So, of course, they're always looking for a way to continue to make that up. And, a big part of it is the control of the people. They want to be able to control us as much as they possibly can. And, they did a darn good job of it. Because they not only were able to spy on everything we said, but they also infiltrated the media, they infiltrated Hollywood, they infiltrated business and banking, and through each one of those various vectors, they used it as an opportunity to control what we thought and how we felt, and the national dialogue. And, they want us to think something, they push us towards that. And for a long time, people did.
Right. And if you think about it, they even were so brazen about it to get us to pay for the propaganda when it comes to these movies and things. People were paying to have their own minds warped and manipulated. And I'm not speaking about everybody in this audience. I know that plenty of people that are involved in this movement have been awake for a while, way past even Q showed up and all that stuff. But like Red Pill was saying here, there was so much profit in global, because this gets into ultimately globalism, right? gets into global control, and the Middle East is geographically convenient to have that when you're talking about going against others such as like Russia. So having the oil out there makes complete sense. There's a lot of money involved in that. If people remember the petrodollar conversations when that was becoming more valuable than the American dollar back in the day, like stepping back, it makes sense, and it's kind of very humbling to think about, because if you look at all these pieces and moving and these actors that were involved in this, it's sinister actions on behalf of the American people without us being aware about it. And I know many of us were, but I'm saying the overall majority that America would be essentially behind all this stuff on the global stage because of the leadership that was involved in there. And the way that you can help sell this to your friends that are on the fence or not sure about it and all, is say all it took was an outsider to be voted in, and then they all lost their minds. Yeah. Right? I mean, as soon as somebody who came in that wasn't a part of this huge Operation America, that they were running through multiple presidencies for decades, one outsider comes in, they all lose their minds and go after him to remove him, and then they go after the top general that can help expose all these things. Yep. That's why they're kicking this can down the road. We all know Flynn's innocent. It's the documents are even out there, but you've got a judge on a high horse that knows he has to kick the can. So he keeps kicking the can, and their last hope is stealing this election. Now, as far as that Trump clip goes, because I know a lot of people were upset, we're not getting anything until after the election, because Trump said after the election, we'll take care of it. First off, he said, we'll take care of it. Now let's see what happens. He might have said that, but that's the first time I think he said, we're going to take care of it.
That is. Yeah.
And also, so what beautiful, like I can see the planning here.
Me too.
Using the October surprise concept as your vehicle to lay the groundwork to what we're talking about here to be exposed, that would be indefensible to them, because how many people lost? Okay, I'll ask the audience here, not to bring up any sad memories. Give me a 1 in the chat if you lost somebody close to you through the wars in Iraq, or since that September in 2001. Put a 1 in the chat if you lost somebody close to you, family, friend, something like that, if you lost somebody during that war.
And then even, people who lost people that went to war and came back and were never the same, because I've had many of those, and I've lost people as well. I don't think there's a person in this country that hasn't been touched by it. And here's the thing. I want to explain the rationale for waiting until after the election. So we've had this operation since 2017 to educate the people, to give power back to the people so that they understand what's been done to them, so that we can retake over the levers of control. We become the news, we become the media, we spread the information. We do it through memes, through tweets, through videos like this, all kinds of different ways. We are the ones who are spreading the truth, because the media stopped doing it a long time ago. If President Trump did it before the election, if he did it right now, right before the election, every one of those enemy assets would be on television, on, YouTube shows, whatever it is, mainstream news, and they would say that it's a political hit job. President Trump is doing it to win the re-election, okay? Now, this way, we've educated everyone. Everyone really understands what a Joe Biden presidency would mean and how terrible the Democrats are, and their Republican counterparts in the cabal that have tried to destroy this country and used us for decades and decades. So they're going to vote for Trump. We know that there is no alternative besides President Trump. It's our responsibility as Americans to engage in our right to vote and make sure President Trump is reelected. And once the political pressure is off, it's then up to the DOJ, to Durham, to Barr, to take care of it and to bring charges and to bring these people to justice, because then all of the information will be out. We're going to have even more disclosures before the election, and people are going to be shocked by the stuff that comes out. Now, by bringing this information out, the hiding of this individual, that in and of itself is treasonous, okay, over and above whatever they did in Spygate, and it's totally indefensible. Okay, you can take people down just for that. Add in the Spygate stuff. Remember, Spygate's like 1%, okay? There is so much more, but just those two things alone, we can take down all of them. And if he does it after the election, it's not political. It is justice, okay? Nobody can say it's anything but justice because the evidence will be presented. President Trump will be reelected, but only if we do our job and vote for him and continue to share this information. And I think truly it is brilliant. You know, nobody wants justice more than us, Methods and I know you guys do too. But I've always said, this has to happen on the timeline that we are not privy to, okay? October surprise is called an October surprise because, you know, it's in October. It's always a surprise. Red right. October, we've been told for a couple of years now, it's right before the election. People are going to walk into that election booth remembering all of these scandals, all of these things that never came out under the last administration, under the administration before that. Everything that was hidden by all of these people. And speaking of one of those people, I mentioned to you the other day that I had heard that Gina Haspel might be forced to retire because she can't deal with Ratcliffe and him doing his job. Well, it's been reported today by Chuck Grassley, nonetheless, Chuck Grassley himself, Mr. Cornwatch, that the head of the Clowns in America, Gina Haspel, has potentially been a part of the coup to remove President Trump. And Methods and I have said number of times on here that Gina Haspel was the London station chief at the time that Stefan Halper was there, at the time that Strzok and Page and McCabe, these guys went to London to meet with these people and to plan this coup. And I truthfully now believe that President Trump chose her to be the leader of the Clowns in America because he knew exactly who she was and he knew exactly what was going on. And that if he put her into this position of power, what would she do? She would continue to obstruct. She would continue to do what she does as a swamp creature and therefore incriminate herself even more and maybe even try to destroy evidence. But thank God we have John Ratcliffe who has access to all of this stuff. He doesn't need to go to the Clowns in America and ask Gina Haspel to hand something over, okay? He can just go ahead and take care of it himself. And Gina Haspel, she can't do anything about it. I think that this was a move by President Trump to further expose the people in Washington that he knew were dirty. And I want your thoughts on that, Methods. But we've got 7,600 people here, 2,471 likes. If you guys wouldn't mind, consider leaving a like on this show. Also, please do consider sharing it on your favorite social media platform. I'm going to go ahead and drop that Twitter link one more time in case there's anybody new here who hasn't heard that call, which was released on the internet earlier today. But Methods, what do you think of that?
Right. Well, more and more I lean towards that, the idea of Trump putting in Haspel specifically, and maybe even Ray, you know, for those reasons, you know, to make them, because then what would happen? The information wouldn't be released, so other people have to release it because there's other ways of getting this information out there. And then they have to resign through that out of disgrace, or they get held accountable. And then because we talk about how the FBI is more likely to last than the clowns when it comes through all this, because I think that the clowns need to be taken apart brick by brick, start all over, name something new, put the right person in there, Grinnell, and have him run this, or him or her run this situation. But I will leave, once again, I will always leave a door open to the idea that they're having to hold on to this information to the last minute and build up this excitement as far as why are they not releasing it? It must be that damning. And then it gets released and then it's understandable, because it's not necessarily about winning any of us here that are listening over, because most of you, if not all of you, get this stuff and you just want the documents out there so they could be used and, you know, to wake up your neighbors, your friends, your family. And also because we know the release of information leads to justice. And that also means that Durham doesn't need it anymore, which means that he's moved on and there's other things going on here. But having somebody like a Gina Haspel deal with the PR optic nightmare of the dark money, black operations that we know that the Clowns in America have been a part of, she would have to resign. What is she going to do? Answer for it? She was just put in there. And if she gets caught up in Spygate stuff, which we know that she was involved in, then this is going to become something that it would justify taking apart the clowns in America. I could totally agree with you on that. Now, and to the point of releasing information during the October surprise and then waiting till after the election for justice, to me, they have to defend all day and deny evidence, but you just keep releasing it. You bombard them. You keep them on their heels. You keep the media busy. You keep the Democrats busy. You wake up more and more people. Yeah, you'll get some votes out of it swinging either way, I imagine. But then if he takes action, then he does fit that narrative of dictator Trump. And I know that we keep talking about how me and you assumed that something would happen before the election. I'm still not taking away that entirely, and I haven't been trying to lead everybody on. I put enough disclaimers on what I say. I hope people understand that. I do still think that you would have something happen right before in the form of handcuffs. Maybe it's just another person, another Kleinsmith type thing. Maybe it is Comey. That would be interesting. But like we're talking about here, if it's just the release of information, federal documents, and making the media defend it or just totally step away and ignore it and then make people curious on why they didn't hear it from the mainstream media. They had to hear it from Twitter, YouTube, a few select people actually in the media. That makes it even more curious as far as the cover-up would look like. And then you have it justified after when Trump has already won the second term. I can appreciate it going that route. And for anybody that's really upset that Trump said after the election is in 3 weeks. 3 weeks. We have plenty of work to do. We'll get there. And to me, this is probably going to be one of the most exciting times. And I had a friend, just real quick, Rip Bill, that said this. I'm not going to drop their name because they didn't say I could. They said that a family member or a friend was saying how this information being released is not enough time, having this drop so close to the election, it's not enough time for them to come out with the excuses on why it's wrong. And if you just keep laying them out there, there's going to be some that get out there that they don't even touch on because they don't have time.
God, I was muted. I just said a word I shouldn't have said. Thank God. Oh my God, I just saved myself. Thank you, Jesus. Appreciate that.
The one time space mute works. Favor.
I can't believe it. That's so awesome. Oh, okay. I can't even remember what I just said. I lost it. Oh yeah. If we would have done it too soon, if they would have released it too long ago, say over the summer, then the mainstream media and their 4 a.m. talking points would have put out all of these various stories, new scandals about President Trump, say another Me Too moment, or, every time you go on Twitter and you say something about Spygate, you have 100 liberal accounts in your thread that say something about how President Trump paid payoff money to various women or he used coarse language. I'm sorry. I don't know a single person who's never used coarse language in their life. And here's a real world example. When all of these comments that President Trump had made in private about various ladies, my daughter came to me and she was like, why would you want a president that, says that about women? And I was like, daughter, when you're alone with your girlfriends, how do you talk about guys? And she turned beet red and she started laughing and she was like, that's not the same. And I'm like, why isn't it the same? You're a human being. When people are alone and they think they're in private and they can talk in confidence, they're going to have a different way of speaking than they would be if they think that they're being recorded. And especially men and women talking about each other in those ways when they think they're in private, it's a completely different scenario than somebody being on stage or speaking with a reporter or, trying to put their best foot forward and trying to, act like a gentleman. I'm sure that probably the vast majority of people have said things in private that they wish they had never said. But thank God it was in private. Nobody has to know. Unless you happen to be on Entertainment Hollywood and Billy Bush is recording you inside the trailer. Unfortunately, that's what happened. Yes, you guys can hear me. I know you guys can hear me. Here, there's something else about Barr I wanted to say. About Barr. All right, so this has been a big topic of conversation. People have always been like, oh, is Barr a good guy? Is Barr a bad guy? Everything that I've seen Barr doing makes me believe that he truly is following along with this plan and that he is going to bring these people to justice. I don't believe that he is stalling on this. But I was told that President Trump was well aware of Bill Barr's behavior under the very first Bush administration, George H.W. Bush. Obviously, he's the Clowns in America alumnus. He has some sketchy connections. I think that in the same way that President Trump knows what some people have done, he also knows exactly what Bill Barr did. And I think that Bill Barr is acting under control of President Trump. He's doing the right thing. Everything that I've seen him doing and every position that I've seen him support, I think that it points to the fact that he's moving this right along. Maybe people don't realize this, but the Attorney General is not supposed to be involved in the day-to-day prosecutions of people. The U.S. attorneys do that. The Attorney General oversees the Department of Justice. He's not going around to people's desks and saying, let's talk about the Flynn case. I want to know everything that's going on, and I want you to keep me up to date on a daily basis. You know, he gives people assignments. Think about mid-level management. You know, you've got your CEO of a corporation. You've got your President of the United States. He has a cabinet, okay? The DOJ, they have top-level managers, they have mid-level managers, and then they have peons, people that are just doing grunt work, interns, if you will. And the DOJ is run through that, that layered structure in the same way that the United States government is run through that layered structure, in the same way a private company is going to be run through that layered structure. You don't go to work as the CEO of a corporation and say, I want to talk about, everything that's happening. You get reports, okay? You make decisions and you delegate. And it's the same way with Bill Barr at the Department of Justice. Now, maybe somebody like Eric Holder, who was Obama's wingman, his right-hand man, had a little bit more of a hands-on attitude, especially when it came to certain cases. Maybe Fast and Furious or something like that. I mean, I think that he was directly involved in that. But it's not like Bill Barr is going to work every day and saying, slow walk this. I don't think that he's doing that. I do think, perhaps, though, that he is being controlled because President Trump knows where the skeletons are buried. He knows the dirt on him. And if it's not that, then I think Bill Barr has realized just how far the cabal took it. He was a company man. He was an agency man. And those people tend to be loyal to the agency before they're loyal to their country. And I think that he's seen just how bad it got. Psyops on the American public is one thing, but absolute, total, dystopian nightmare, George Orwell 1984 realized is a completely different thing. So either Donald Trump has his thumb on Bill Barr, or Bill Barr realized how far they took it and how terrible that is for the country, and that there will be no America if they take it to its logical conclusion. That's what I think.
Right, and I'm going to try to be respectful of people's opinions, because I know some people are genuinely, that are on the right or in our movement or whatever, that are questioning Barr, don't trust him and all that stuff. That's fine. You're entitled to your own opinion. Here's mine. As far as it would make a lot of sense to see doubt in a man that we are looking to bring what we've been wanting for several years now, if not longer for other people, but as far as in the context of our favorite Anon and what's been talking about with the president, it would make sense for doubt to be sown out there. So I do believe some out there are shills. Not all. You all have your opinions, and that's fine. Where I see things on Barr is that if we were to then be told everything was fine, or Klein Smith was it, or if they just put it this way, we know enough about this situation that Durham and Barr are looking into, that if certain things aren't answered, then I'm all about criticizing Barr for not going after certain aspects of things, but we aren't there yet.
Yes.
We are not there yet. So how many times are people saying Barr is going to do nothing. He's another Sessions, even though Sessions gave us Epstein and a lot of sealed indictments. So we're going to see where that goes too. I'm still holding my breath on seeing about Sessions as well. I have no problem with that. But if you haven't seen the conclusion of a story, why are you telling everybody an ending we don't know about? That's the biggest problem to me, because we're saying all these things out there and it's just putting out negativity. Now, once again, do what you want. If that's how you feel, you got free speech, take it to whatever social media and say it, and that's fine. But if you're trying to sell me on the idea that Barr's not going to do anything when it's not done, then I'm not going to sit here and say, okay, I buy it, or push it on to other people. Let's see what happens. When Durham wraps up and we get to see what has been done with all the information we have, then I will give you a criticized opinion about Barr and Durham and how they handled it. But we're in the middle of that, so there's no way that we can really know.
Yeah.
And that's why I question the validity of certain statements made by people saying Barr this, Barr that. Yeah, everybody's got a sketchy past. My past is sketchy. Red Pill's got a sketchy past. We all have that.
Yep.
But we're trying to do the best we can here with what we can do in the positions that we've been able to get into, to help out people and do everything. But, if we're going to sit here and look at the past of certain people, let's look at the actions of what they're doing now. We're not there yet.
I completely agree with you. It's like watching a sports ball game, and at halftime, it's a tie game, and you say, this team is going to lose because I know it, okay? You're not a member of the team. You're not the coach. You're not even in the stadium or the, whatever they call it, the court. And you just say they're going to lose because you know it. You feel it, okay? I can tell they're going to lose. Okay, well, you don't really know that, all right? That's what you think. But don't tell everybody else to think the same thing that you do, because maybe somebody else likes the other team and they think they're gonna win. Also, my source contacted me and said that Ratcliffe actually does have to go to Gina Haspel, but President Trump said to release it all. It's a matter of Gina Haspel finding it and giving it to him. We've only got a couple donations, so let me just go over those real quick. Angela says, thanks for your hard work and keeping us informed. God bless. Also, earlier today, Sharon didn't say anything at all. So thank you very much, Sharon. And then real quick from PayPal, we've also got, let's see. Suki Q says, never been more proud of you. Thanks for being trustworthy. Love Suki. Thank you so much, Suki. I appreciate that. Thomas says we should all show our appreciation for Red Pill and Methods for their efforts in getting out this crucial information. Thank you again. Prayers for you and your family. Also, Michael says, love your show. Keep up the great work. Split this with Methods. I'll split it with you after the show. And then this one says, don't read this on air. So I won't read that one on air, but thank you. You know who you are. Anita, Emmanuel, Teresa, and that's it. Thank you guys. Appreciate those. Let me check that message from the person who doesn't want me to read it. But yeah, you guys, big prayers for me. Definitely bringing out information like this is dangerous. Not going to lie. But I think it's important. I think it needs to come out. And, when you're given stuff and you find stuff that is of this magnitude, I don't see how you can do anything but try to spread it around. It's definitely something that needs to be answered for, and hopefully President Trump is going to hear it, or he's already heard it, and this is definitely something that is on their radar. So if you feel like it, go ahead and retweet and at the president so that he knows what's going on. I mean, this morning, he retweeted somebody else's article about it, which is a huge deal. That gives it legs. I was in a message the other night, and some people were skeptical about whether or not the information was legitimate or not. And I can appreciate that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a critical eye and making sure that things are sauceable. With the new information that was released on the internet today, we've got the transcript. We've got 2 calls, which are put into one. There's also an excerpt which explicitly states the U.S. government's knowledge of the location and lack of desire to do anything about that location. Hold on. Come here.
Gotta love the cat.
Yeah. And, and then There's going to be more information coming out about SEAL Team 6. Like I said, fast and furious. This is huge. You know, it's the Rosetta Stone, if you will, of October surprises, and it's going to continue. So I definitely wouldn't be able to do this if you guys were not here with me. So please help continuing to share that information, get that out, and make people aware, because the only way for me to stay safe is for the information to be widely known. And yeah, that's basically it. Now, let's see. Methods, did you have anything you wanted to say?
Well, I just want to make sure, because we were having the discussions about, you know, information being released, the October surprises stuff, and we kind of skimmed over the text messages.
Yeah.
We talked about it a little bit, but what we've got here, as far as we had text messages released, and as I understand it, we only got a select amount of pages.
Yeah,
there's
24.
There's like 300 pages or something that's been made available to Congress, but they're having a hard time getting them to release them to the public. So there's more. But what we're getting from this, and it ties to that 94-page spreadsheet that we talked about earlier about how the media, you know, it was being sourced. Well, I'm going to drop this link here in the chat for everybody. Basically, what we see from this is that McCabe was being kept in the know on what the media was covering at certain times during the lead up about this time, really, in 2016, as far as like the October surprises are concerned back then, because they were using the whole Russia connections and Trump's, you know, tax return stuff and his business dealings and all that. We all remember it. It was all going on. They still use it, but they were using it a lot back then. And so what you've got here in these text messages is McCabe being kept aware of what's being said, what's the narrative. And he seems to, like, from what we could see in these, that he's somewhat grateful to be made aware, and he's kind of happy about it. At least that's the vibe that I get from it. You know, text messages are text messages. People read my tweets wrong all the time and assume I mean something when I didn't. But that's interesting timing, because because what I see from this, Red Pill, and we could probably already agree that this is the case, that they were corroborating all of this to make it work. Like they were collaborating rather on making sure this information release was going on, as if the FBI was part of the operation of these releases itself. It's not like the FBI was like, oh, we'll just turn a blind eye and let them leak this stuff to the media, and then, oh, we need to be the good people that we are and investigate all these claims by the media. What we're seeing here is that they were involved in real time, and
they knew about the stories before they even came out. And specifically, they mentioned that Alpha Bank story, which was a totally made up story. Remember, that was the one about the communication between the Alpha Bank in Russia and the Trump server and Trump Tower, supposedly sending packets of information back and forth to each other. Very quickly debunked. But initially, it was born out of the Clinton campaign. So again, it shows the coordination between the Clinton campaign and the FBI and the media in making sure that this hype machine continued to build up. And every single article that came out, I'm sure the FBI was a direct source for. I mean, we already know that Andy McCabe admitted to being sources for a variety of these stories. So, I mean, it's a disgusting thing. It's a disgusting thing to do. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, and there's no way these guys wanted to let go of that power.
absolutely. And the fact that they are supposed to be, you know, our top lead investigative organization that's supposed to be on, you know, looking out for the American people. They were spying on somebody who won the vote or won the electoral vote. And one could argue that Hillary was still cheating to get herself to at least the popular vote for that narrative. I mean, obviously she wanted to win, but I do believe that they probably cheated back then too to get those votes up, because you have to think about how much of a pain Hillary is. A lot of people didn't like her, even on the left, you know, and they hadn't had a Trump presidency happen yet. So I would assume that, like, wouldn't it be interesting if they were to come back and then prove election interference on the voting fraud in 2016 as well? Just show that even her popular vote argument is a joke. But anyways, like what we're talking about here when it comes to how, like what Red Pill said about how they knew the stories that were going to drop beforehand, kind of like they had planned out this attack. Like, we're going to drop this news bomb this day, and it's going to run for this long. We're going to have another one and go on that. I see that's what Trump and everybody's doing on our side now. I mean, we've been going through this for weeks. I mean, I remember months ago we were begging for information, and we had to keep talking about the Rona during quarantine because we didn't have a whole lot to talk about.
Yep.
But now it's something that every day, I mean, there's another Catherine Heritage tweet with information. There's another drop that Technofog's going over. And I think that we're going to be getting more and more, and they're going to be ramping up. And I guess we can go ahead and lean into the Anna Kate tweet that came out today. I've seen it in the audience. You guys pay attention to so much. I'm sure this is already old news to y'all, but this Anna Kate tweet that came out is saying that Fast and Furious should be coming out today as far as information is concerned. And it might have during the show. I'll be looking around afterwards. But as far as having that information come out as well, because we remember, when was it, Red Pill, when Mexico was calling for the investigation in the Fast and Furious? That was earlier this year.
Earlier this year. It wasn't too long ago.
Right. So this would kind of be like the next move past that, of having Fast and Furious information come out. So eyes out on that. We don't have anything past these announcements. It's the same one that was breaking the information on Twitter as far as this Osama stuff. But I do believe that we're going to get too much information to cover. People like Red Pill and I have our jobs cut out for us over the next several weeks.
Absolutely. Now, real quick, I need to say thank you to J Bell. Appreciate that, J Bell. He says, thank you and Methods for your work and spirit. God bless you. And let me see. That is it. Okay, great. Now, I want you guys to just real quick. The MAGA meetup is coming this Thursday. Owen actually did a story on us last night. JR was interviewed. That was pretty cool. And Owen was kind enough to share the GoFundMe. So I'm dropping the GoFundMe again. If you guys have, if you have donated, or even if you haven't donated and you're just planning on coming, can you please reach out to JR either on Twitter or send him an email. Oh, there goes my curtain. It's blowing windy outside. I believe it's J.R. Majewski. Actually, just go on Twitter. Let him know, though. Let him know that you're coming, and you need to get the address from him. Or I suppose you can email me if you don't know how to get a hold of JR. Maybe if you don't have the email, or you don't have his Twitter because you're not on Twitter. So please, definitely, guys, I want to make sure that everybody who can attend does attend. It is another official Trump victory campaign event, and we're going to have special guests. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be doing a lot of cool stuff. All right.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, too, because I actually get to call in and hang out this time around.
That's right. So. Yes, you do.
So, yeah, that's breaking news.
One of our special guests right here.
Right. Yeah, I'll be calling in for a little bit that night to hang out with everybody. That'll be pretty cool.
So we had a cool little proof today that was posted by Kaylee McEnany. I thought that was kind of neat. She has that clock behind her. Well, it still appears to be broken, only this time she's changed the time. So it looks to me like it's 3:15, but obviously it's a little bit farther back. But she says that it is at 3:16, so she's referring to John 3:16. Let me see if I can make this visible for you guys. So there she is. We're talking to Maria Bartiromo. There is the clock. And then we had this post from our favorite Anon, which includes the passage from John 3:16, which is, "For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life." So I thought that was an interesting little proof for us to get today.
Right, and then watching the exchange in between her and Chuck Grassley saying he'll get her batteries for her clock if she needs it, and then Kevin Cork getting in on the fun. It's definitely cool. I mean, I don't know all that much that I can really decode and be comfortable with when it comes to these clocks going on. I'm sure now that I've said that, I'll be getting DMs with the decode maps and stuff, but it's definitely interesting. I mean, the fact that, when we're talking about, TikTok and things happening and all that stuff, it's definitely pretty cool. But in turn, I also want to just, before, we've got about 15 minutes left in the show, But I just want to make sure that we take a moment, Red Pill, and just kind of give everybody that encouragement that we are going to probably go through the hardest time when it comes to censorship, when it comes to shill attacks, fake MAGA coming out and saying things when they've just been, sleepers, not necessarily big names, just accounts in general, stuff like that. I'm hearing word from my buddy Neon Revolt that just came across the screen that he's getting word that a second wave of Discord purge when it comes to servers and stuff are happening. I don't know where he got that from, but I'm just sharing the word. Like, if you have a Discord, be careful. They already did first wave and took a bunch of them down. That I can confirm. But we're going to be going through all this stuff, and we need to go through it together. We can get through this. Like I said, it's just several weeks, as far as like maybe 3 or 4 getting past this election. And I do believe that we can get through this. My goal is to have, as much fun and as far as like positivity and just enjoying myself during these weeks when it's supposed to be the most like emotional and spiritual burden on our shoulders. I'm going to enjoy my life, and I'm going to make sure that I do. And I want that for everybody. Let's get through this together. There's just going to be a lot of things going on. And, if somebody's account gets taken down, we got to pick up the slack after the fact. So, I'm proud of you guys. I know we can do it. I know that we can make sure that all this information gets spread. We can help get the president, reelected. And, let's just do the best we can. Be smart, stay under the radar. And, let's just take this thing home.
We can do it. It's going to be a rough ride, I think. There's going to be all kinds of things that get thrown at us, and I would imagine that they're going to have some real doozies in there. By and large, though, I mean, it's right around the corner, And to your point about having fun, it's another reason why we're doing the MAGA meetup. I want to just enjoy life. I want to kind of get all of this weight off of my shoulders. This political gig is heavy sometimes. It's a burden at times, but I mean, it is also what I love. So it's a burden that I cherish and that I look forward to every single day. President Trump is definitely going to be the 45th president for another term. I guarantee it. Guarantee it. Just don't forget to vote. Don't forget to get out there. And, on that note, actually, an unfortunate incident happened in Virginia. There was what appears to be a strange severed fiber optic cable situation. So there's a statewide voter registration that was going on. Was that online methods?
I didn't look much into it because I only saw it right before we got into the show. But it's definitely curious about that stuff because you would think that they would want to be able to have as many people sign up as possible. But I don't know. Is that technically, is it a red area or a blue area? Do we know?
Oh, Virginia Governor Northam, he's a Democrat.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it says Virginia's Department of Education said they are alerted after a fiber cut near the Commonwealth Enterprise Solutions Center was impacting data circuits and VPN connectivity for multiple agencies. This has affected the Citizen Portal along with Registrar's Office. This morning, this is a tweet from the Virginia Department of Elections. This morning, we were alerted by VITA that a fiber cut near the Commonwealth Enterprise Solutions Center was impacting data circuits and VPN connectivity for multiple agencies. Technicians are on site and working to repair. Updates will be provided as work progresses. And Justin Fairfax, he is the lieutenant governor working with them. Now, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if this is... if the people of Virginia are going to vote Democrat this time. I mean, it's very possible that they would have, Langley is in Virginia, so maybe there's a high population of people working in the federal government there. More people that are working at the Clowns in America could be. So perhaps it will impact them. But, anytime there's some kind of hanky-panky like this, I don't think that it's on behalf of the good guys or that it's meant to benefit conservatives in any way.
I agree with you there. It's definitely interesting, and the location being controlled by the Democrats makes me wonder as well. But we'll see what happens with it. I do believe that we're going to be getting a lot of chaos when it comes to the election and the voting itself. But, if you listen to Trump's words carefully, and our buddy Champs had put out a great clip. If you guys go to my Twitter account, you'll see it and just scroll back a little bit. But Trump is hinting at how the police, why are they finding out about these, dumped ballots in locations, right? How would they know unless they're actively searching for them? And he gave credit to the police and saying that they are going to be paying attention. So I do believe that there is an operation going on that is hunting down specifically these mail-in ballot fraud that's going on. And what better way than to have a report of that going on and just counting all of those that were released that way. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, Bob says, get Anna Kate on your show. Anna doesn't follow me, and I don't know how to get a hold of her. But I'm actually having the original sources for the information that we've been talking about with regard to Iran and Extortion 17, Benghazi, the whole thing. They're actually going to be on the show very soon. So we'll be talking to them, and hopefully they're going to have a lot more information for us because, like we said earlier, it's just going to continue to drip, 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 drip until we get to the election. So much information is about to come out. And, this is, I've often said this is the most exciting time to be alive, and it just keeps getting better, like over and over and over again. Like when I think it's gotten as good as it possibly can, there's just a new level, a brand new level.
I totally agree with you. All
right, so let's see. There was President Trump was nominated for 4th Nobel Peace Prize. We haven't even talked about this. The thing about it is that I don't think I've ever heard of anyone being nominated this many times in a single year. And I think it's starting to get to the point that if they don't give President Trump the Nobel Peace Prize, I don't think people are going to take it seriously anymore. I mean, clearly it's a corrupt organization. I mean, what they did with Obama when he came into office, that was pretty ridiculous. But I mean, you've had 4 different people, numerous global peace deals being done with people that the global community never thought were going to come together at a table and make a deal for peace. And I think he truly does deserve the Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, I thought that he deserved it initially just after the North Korea stuff. But I mean, he's just kept going. And it's a testament to his deal-making prowess, And I think that it's a symbol of what he is bringing not only to America, but to the world. I think that these countries are willing to make these deals and willing to say, hey, you know what, we're going to lay our arms down because President Trump is showing them conclusively that things are changing here in America. We have the largest military industrial complex on the face of the earth. We provide a lot of arms and a lot of, munitions to many, many, many countries. And when we get into these deals with them, they're contingent upon these countries buying and continuing to buy. Well, when you buy all of these weapons of war, they can't just sit there. You got to use them at a certain point. So of course there's training exercises, but they're really helpful if you actually are going to war with another country or you're using them before they expire. So by doing that, they can guarantee the continued purchase of these things from these military contractors, and they keep the wars going that way. So President Trump coming into office and being able to walk into these countries and say, hey, you know what? We're not going to fight anymore. We're not going to do this anymore. We want peace. Peace is better for business than war because we can still make money. We can just make it a different way.
Right. And I mean, if peace is going on and then, countries can focus on their work and building their economies, and get into the side of where it gets returned back to the people itself is very important. And I do agree. And some people in the chat have said this. I mean, he should technically just say thanks, but no thanks to any of the Nobel Prize, even if they did fully give it to him. Because like you said, peace is the prize. Mm-hmm. And it has been tainted. How many times I know that we always refer to Obama, him getting it within just a few months of him being president, but what good would that do him really in the grand scheme of things? He doesn't care about it. It's not like he needs it for his resume for after he's president or something like that. And then ultimately, I think that we should just have a new named one entirely. I think that would be fantastic.
The Trump Peace Prize?
Yeah, if Trump's involved, he'll put his name on it like he does everything else. But I think that we should have something new, just like how we were talking about the clowns in America having a different name, going in a different direction. Things like prizes and stuff. I mean, I think that we do need that change, but it's just going to take time in general to really build back. But we've got a deal. So like you said, when we're not having these wars where they're profiting off of the weapons manufacturing, deals being made, trade deals and all that stuff going on through war, it does change the landscape and dry up the funding of the old guard in general. When we say old guard, as in the old world before, like pre-Trump, basically being president. And that's where you hurt them at their wallet, and Trump knows that. If you hurt them financially, then a lot of their moves don't they can't make, because they can't exactly pay off more people to do stuff if they're not bringing in the revenue. And then if they are having their finances frozen and stuff for their actions, and we just haven't been made aware of it yet, then they really have a problem if they have nothing else to bring in finance.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, peace is good for the people, but it's not good for the people who make money off of war. And really, I mean, that's what our economy was built on by and large. I mean, they had to keep going to war so that they could keep justifying the expenditure, so that they could keep justifying the need to build these weapons of mass destruction. And they had to keep making boogeymen because of it. So again, I'm going back to keeping OBL in Iran. He's on the run. America is constantly afraid of the next attack, of where it's going to come. And I think that they've said that before, we don't know where they're going to hit next, And they just keep him in the shadows, under the radar, so that they can keep scaring us with that boogeyman and keep us on our toes constantly, begging them to build weapons of war, begging them to spy on us, to keep us safe from these, mysterious people in the shadows, when the reality is the whole time it was them. It was always them. They were the enemies. They were the people that we needed to be afraid of. Truthfully, it's the very definition of the wolf, or the wolf in the hen house. Sheep. What is it? Is that how they say it? Wolf in sheep's clothing, fox in the hen house. That's what it is. Fox in the hen house.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, but we're moving our way towards it, because we're seeing essentially the death throes, or like the reference we've used before, when you're casting out a demon and you see it, writhing in pain and screeching and all that stuff. Then that's what we're seeing now with all these like temper tantrums that they're throwing. And because I mean, they've ramped up everything so far now, it's just kind of laughable at this point, everything that they're trying, and it's just not even working anymore.
Right.
So I'm definitely not worried about that. But with the few minutes that we have left, I want to make sure people have something else to watch. I know the hearing is still going on.
Oh, Lord. It was like 6 hours yesterday, wasn't it?
No, they said that they're going to go to like 9 tonight and then do some tomorrow. More power to them. I'll catch what I can, but this show today has definitely been a nice breather from watching all that stuff, and I'm sure the audience has enjoyed their time too. But with that said, 412's got his show, 412 and On. He's my co-host on Fridays on my channel. He is going to be going live here in an hour. I'm going to rapid fire that link in the chat for you guys. So if you want to watch something else that is not the hearing, it'll be right there. That link is handy. And then tomorrow I will be going live on my channel for our weekly Wednesday show with Scott from Woke Societies at 2:30 p.m. Eastern. And then, let me ask you, are we doing Occam's on Thursday?
That's right. We didn't even talk about it because of all the craziness today. Yeah, no Occam's Razor on Thursday.
Right.
I have my regular show at 5 o'clock that's coming out, and then we have the stream on Thursday night that we're going to be doing from the MAGA meetup, and then going to be streaming the Trump rally, and then we'll do an after show for the Trump rally as well. And we definitely, we're going to have some special guests calling in. It's going to be a very good time. And we have a whole bunch of stuff planned. And if you are able to come to the event, there's all kinds of free stuff we're giving away. We're going to have a raffle. I think at the last one, like the winner won like $400 or $500 or something like that. So by all means come. There's free food, free entertainment. Obviously, you're going to get to hang out with me. The dogs are not coming this time because they were a little skeeved out by people who brought their dogs and by all of the strangers. If there was no dogs that were going to be there, then it would be a different scenario. But they feel the need to protect the entire time. So, yes. Somebody just texted me and said, "You're on poll." Your thread is on poll right now, effing famous. Oh my God. Jason. Hi, Jason. I don't know if you're watching, buddy, but good to hear from you. Yeah, pretty funny stuff. So yeah, I hope you guys can come, man. And if you can't come, I just hope you watch the stream because we're going to have a great time. Maybe afterwards, you know, I'll take a couple of calls from people, but most definitely, I want to say once again, thank you to JR for, you know, convincing me to start doing this stuff because it's a whole new spin on what we're doing here on the channel. It's a new direction, and I can't wait to keep doing more of these, especially after President Trump wins, because we're going to be able to have a major victory party, you guys. It's going to be incredible. Don't forget, watch 412 today. Make sure you watch Methods, and then I'll see you guys later tonight. I got another video coming out probably at 6. I have to go walk the dogs and feed them, but then it'll be out at 6. All right. Thanks again, Methods.
Well, before you jump off here, apparently here in 15 minutes, Space Shot, he just messaged me, didn't send me a link, so I appreciate that. I know you're listening, bud. Thanks for the sauce not being sent over. Him and Severe are going to go live, I assume, on Space Shot's channel, and Nate Kane's going to be hanging out.
Oh, sweet.
So that's in 15 minutes, so catch that, and then also show 412 some love at 4 p.m. Eastern. I don't have a link available, but just go to Space Shot 76's channel, and you'll find it.
All right, you guys. Thank you to everybody who's been hanging out with us. I appreciate it, man. I can't believe we had so many people here, over 8,000. So we will be back later. I'll see you guys on Red Pill News. Good luck and God bless everyone.